Part 2, Act 1, Scene 1 of Faust, a pleasant landscape, Faust is sleeping restlessly in a field at twilight. Ariel and a group of nature spirits take away his troubled memories. Faust wakens, refreshed, when Apollo's car drives up, fascinated and delighted by the paradise he sees around him. In Part 2, Act 1, Scene 2, the Imperial Palace, as Part 2 actually begins, in his throne room, the young emperor discovers his fool has just fallen down dead. An elegant but grotesque clown has taken his place, Mesphistopheles. The emperor accepts Mesphistopheles as his new fool. The emperor's advisors, the chancellor, the minister of war, the treasurer, and the steward, bombard him with reports on problems in the empire and the world. Mephistopheles suggests they get an expert who can mine for gold. This reliance on nature and the mind troubles the advisors. The emperor challenges Mephistopheles to produce the gold, then returns to celebrating Carnival. In Part 2, Act 1, Scene 3, a great hall, the herald announces a Carnival celebration that is not in the German style. The emperor dances wildly, and all manner of common folk are in attendance, as are a very mixed bag of other people and beings, including poets, characters from Greek mythology, and even supernatural beings like nymphs, gnomes, and giants. The crowd keeps growing rowdier and getting bigger. The emperor, dressed as Pan, loves it. A charioteer brings in Plutus, the god of wealth, who magically takes molten gold and it bubbles up in his cauldron. The herald thinks it's a trick, but Plutus wins him over by turning his staff to flame and using it to quell the crowd. He's horrified, though, when everything and everyone starts catching fire, but Plutus calls down rain, which puts out the fires. So far, Faust and Mephistopheles have not appeared together in the same scene in this part. Part 1 centered mostly on the village in which Gretchen lived. In Part 2, however, Faust embarks on a journey through Germany and classical Greece, moving from adventure to adventure. Faust will set out from Germany in Act 2 and return to complete his own personal inner journey in Act 4. From the start, Part 2 is very different from Part 1. Nature and the supernatural play much greater roles. The tragic tone that often arose in Part 1 is replaced by a playful tone, characterized by exaggeration, witticisms, irony, and even visual humor. It's worth pointing out that Part 2 has seldom been staged. The settings, countless unnamed characters, and reliance on special effects make it pretty hard to put on.